Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Storyteller's Corner. My ex-husband remarried, and he chose my venue to host the reception. When it was time to settle the bill, following old habits, he went to put it on his tab. The manager simply smiled and said, "The owner has instructed that your bill must be paid in full." I sat in my private office, my hands warming a fresh cup of coffee. It had taken 3 grueling years to rebuild my business from the ashes of a broken marriage. Finally, my venue, Elysian Events, had established a solid reputation. A knock on the door broke my train of thought. It was Kevin, the sharpest and most capable event manager I had ever trained. Seeing his hesitant expression and slightly furrowed brows, I knew something was wrong, either a problem or a particularly difficult client. "Evelyn, could you take a look at this for me?" Kevin placed a booking file on my desk, his tone unusually cautious. I raised an eyebrow but didn't open it yet. "What is it? Is the client asking for a discount or requesting some bizarre menu?" "Just follow company policy, Kevin. You don't need to ask me about these little things." "No, that's not it. They haven't finalized the price yet, but the client is insisting on meeting the owner directly. They said they're old friends and want a special deal." I looked at the groom's name. It looked familiar. "I think it's your ex-husband." My hand, holding the coffee cup, froze in midair. A sudden silence filled the room. The name Ryan Thompson, a name I hadn't wanted to speak for 3 years, a name I thought was buried with the divorce papers at the courthouse, had suddenly resurfaced in the most unexpected way. I gently set the cup down, the clink of porcelain sounding cold and sharp. "Let me see." I opened the file. Bold letters stared back at me. Groom, Ryan Thompson. Bride, Tiffany Miller. The proposed date was next month. A 50-table reception with a special note requesting the super VIP package in our largest ballroom with exclusive decorations. I let out a faint, cynical laugh. A leopard never changes its spots. 3 years apart, and Ryan's penchant for showing off, his need to put on a show, was the same as ever, perhaps even amplified now that he'd landed a wealthy new wife. I glanced at the bride's name, the daughter of some new money real estate mogul from Newport Beach. No wonder Ryan wanted to go all out. He wanted to use this wedding to cement his status, to save face, and to show off to his new in-laws that he was well connected enough to book the most luxurious event center in Beverly Hills. Kevin stood beside me, discreetly observing my reaction. "Evelyn, maybe we should just politely decline? I can tell them the ballroom is already booked for that day. Having him here, I'm afraid it will be awkward for you. Some of the older staff know what happened, and there might be gossip." I looked up at Kevin, my gaze surprisingly calm. "Decline? Why would I do that? I'm in business. My doors are open to everyone. Why would I turn away a paying customer? Besides, this isn't just a wedding. This is an opportunity to teach Ryan one final lesson, a lesson in accountability that he never learned during all our years together. No need to decline. My voice was firm and clear. "Accept the booking. The customer is king. If they have the money, we provide the service." "But, Evelyn," Kevin hesitated. "He wants to meet you to negotiate the price. He'll say you're family. I'm afraid he'll pull the same old trick, run up a tab and then delay payment, just like before." I stood up and walked to the large window, looking down at the bustling traffic below. Memories of the past flooded back. The endless client dinners he hosted, the stack of unpaid invoices signed Thompson in my drawer, the promises of "I'll pay you back later" that vanished with the morning's hangover. The total debt he left me with after the divorce amounted to $50,000 money I had scraped together, penny by penny. In court, he had brushed it all aside, claiming they were business entertainment expenses to support the family. I knew full well he had spent it to show off to his friends. I turned back to face Kevin, the smile gone from my lips, replaced by the serious expression of a business owner. "Kevin, listen to my instructions carefully. You will treat this booking like any other VIP client. There will be absolutely no discounts, not even a single dollar. Every single item, from a wet nap to a bottle of water, must be documented and signed for. And most importantly," I paused, emphasizing each word, "draft a special contract. I'll email you the template. The golden rule for this wedding is payment in full. No tabs, no family discounts, no exceptions. Kevin seemed to grasp my intention, a mischievous glint in his eye. I understand. I'll work with the sales department right away. But what if he insists on seeing you? Then tell him I'm on a business trip overseas or in a board meeting. Let him put on his show for his new fiancée. I want to see just how much his fragile ego is worth. Kevin nodded, took the file, and walked out, his posture much more confident than when he had entered. The door closed, leaving me in silence. I sat back down, twisting the sapphire ring on my finger. Ryan, do you really think I'm the same naive, trusting Evelyn from 3 years ago? You want to use my stage to play the part of a tycoon? Fine. I'll build you the most magnificent stage imaginable. But this time, the price of admission will be the very pride you worship. After Kevin left, I couldn't focus on work. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, where I kept personal items I rarely touched. Beneath a stack of old papers was a black, leather-bound ledger, its edges frayed. It was the debt book, a silent witness to my 3 years of bitter marriage. I flipped through the yellowed pages, my handwriting from back then shaky with anger and helplessness. Date: dinner with City Planning Commissioner, $1,500. Date: college buddy's birthday bash, $2,000. Date: his uncle's retirement party, $1,200. The numbers went on and on. Each entry represented a time Ryan had puffed out his chest, generously treating the world at his wife's expense. I vividly remembered a rainy night 4 years ago. My business was just a small family restaurant then, built on borrowed funds. Ryan burst in with a dozen of his drinking buddies like a hurricane. He ordered the most expensive items on the menu: lobster, king crab, imported wine. Throughout the meal, his booming laughter drowned out the sound of the rain. "Eat and drink up, everyone! My wife's restaurant is my restaurant. It's on me tonight," he slurred, his face flushed with alcohol, slapping a friend on the back with smug satisfaction. I stood behind the cash register, my stomach in knots. I still owed the seafood supplier for that morning's delivery, and here was my husband, wasting it all to entertain friends who I knew only showed up for the free booze. When the party finally ended, his friends staggered out. Ryan stumbled over to the counter, his red face inches from mine. "Put it on my tab, honey. I'll give you the cash when we get home." I forgot my wallet. That same line. Put it on my tab. 2 words that haunted me for years. I looked at him, trying to suppress my frustration. "Ryan, you've already run up a tab of over $3,000 this month. I haven't even paid the rent, the staff, or the utility bills yet. Please, can you just pay me?" His expression instantly darkened. He slammed his hand on the counter, startling the waitstaff who cowered in a corner. "What's wrong with you? Are you really going to nickel and dime your own husband over a few bucks? I'm entertaining clients to build our business, to provide for this family. Do you think I'm out having fun? Just write it down. I'll pay you tomorrow." He stormed out, leaving me alone amidst a mountain of dirty dishes and the sympathetic glances of my employees. Of course, tomorrow never came. Whenever I asked for the money, he would deflect with the same old excuses. The client hadn't paid, his money was tied up in real estate, his investments hadn't matured. The final straw was when he went into my private cellar and took 2 bottles of 20-year-old scotch I had been saving for a major investor who had helped me in my early days. When I discovered they were missing and confronted him, he was casually picking his teeth. "Oh, that? I gave it to my boss yesterday. He loves me, promised me a promotion to department head. Are you really going to complain about 2 bottles of liquor when your husband's career is on the line? Do you have any idea how much those bottles cost? And you took them without even asking me," I screamed in desperation. "Give it a rest," he yelled back. "Stop being such a typical nagging wife, counting every penny. When I make it big, I'll buy you a whole cellar." The promotion never materialized. Instead, he sank deeper into debt, gambling, and all-night drinking sessions. The tab at my restaurant grew with every page turned in the ledger. By the time it hit $50,000, I couldn't take it anymore. On the day of our divorce hearing, he shamelessly declared before the judge, "That debt is part of our shared living expenses. Those dinners were for business, for the good of the family. Now that we're divorcing, assets are split, so the debt should be split too. Or she can take it all. since the restaurant is in her name. I laughed, a bitter, soul-crushing laugh. I agreed to shoulder the entire debt just to get my freedom, to excise him from my life as quickly as possible. I considered that $50,000 the price of escaping, the cost of my youthful blindness. I closed the ledger and tossed it back into the drawer. Those memories no longer hurt me. They only deepened my contempt for him, but this time was different. Ryan was no longer my husband, and Elysian Events was no longer the struggling little eatery he could abuse at will. I would use his own fatal flaw, that hollow pride, that deep-seated need to show off, to set a trap. A sweet, glamorous, and luxurious trap, worthy of the tycoon he so desperately pretended to be. As predicted, 2 days after Kevin accepted the booking, my personal cell phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I recognized the vanity digits, all sevens. Ryan was always obsessed with such superficial things. He could be broke, but his phone number had to be impressive, his car spotless. I let it ring 3 times before answering, my voice calm. Evelyn Pierce. The familiar voice came through the line, a deep, raspy tone he intentionally cultivated to sound important, but I could still hear the arrogance beneath it. "Hey, it's me, Ryan. How have you been? Business is booming, huh? I hear Elysian Events is the #1 spot in Beverly Hills now." "Thank you, Ryan. I'm fine. Business is steady. Is there something I can help you with? I'm about to step into a meeting." I kept it short, giving him no room for small talk. Ryan paused, likely surprised by my coldness, but he quickly recovered his confidence. Well, the thing is, I'm getting married. She's from a good family, big in business, and I wanted to book your place to support an old friend. After all, even if the love is gone, we can still be civil. I wanted to give you some business." I almost laughed out loud. "Give me business? Support me?" He spoke as if he were granting me a favor. "Yes," my staff informed me. "Thank you for trusting Elysian Events with your special day, but for the booking process, please work with my event manager. He's very professional." "Come on, Evelyn." Ryan's voice grew slightly impatient. "I'm calling you because I want to book the grand ballroom on the 5th floor. Your staff said it has to be booked a year in advance. Can you do me a favor and squeeze me in for the 18th of next month? And since we go way back, and I'm supporting you, you should be a little more flexible with the price, right?" I leaned back in my chair, watching the gray sky outside threaten a storm. He was finally showing his true colors. Flexible, in Ryan's dictionary, meant a massive discount, a ton of freebies, and most importantly, letting him run a tab. "Ryan," my tone became firm. "First of all, the grand ballroom is indeed in high demand, but if you want it, I can use my executive privilege to hold it for you. However, regarding the price and payment, I need to be very clear. Elysian Events is now a corporation with a board of directors and independent auditors. Every transaction must be transparent. I'm not the small restaurant owner who could let people run tabs like in the old days. If I break the rules, I'll have a lot to answer for to my shareholders." There was a moment of silence on the other end. I could picture Ryan's face turning red with anger. He hated being told no, especially by a woman he once looked down on. "What's that supposed to mean?" he grumbled. "You think I can't pay? I'm not the same man I was before. I'm handling a major real estate project out in the desert, millions of dollars at my fingertips. I just wanted you to bend the rules a little, for old time's sake. Money is a small matter for me." He took the bait, walking right into the tycoon persona he had fabricated. "Oh, that's wonderful," I feigned a cheerful tone. "If you're doing so well, then I have nothing to worry about. In that case, please just follow our standard VIP procedure. Our contract clearly outlines the payment schedule. And you know, our VIP clients are all genuinely wealthy. They never haggle over a few dollars or ask for credit. It's tacky." I intentionally emphasized the word tacky. I knew exactly where his pressure points were. Ryan cleared his throat, trying to salvage his pride. Of course, that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to be clear. "All right, tell your staff to draw up the contract. I'll have someone come over to handle it. But remember, make it spectacular. Don't let me lose face with my bride's family." "Don't you worry," I smiled, a sharp, cold smile. "For your wedding, I will personally oversee every detail. I guarantee it will be a memory you will never forget." I hung up. The game had just begun. He wanted spectacle. I would give him spectacle. He wanted to show off his class. I would give him every opportunity to do so. I just feared his empty wallet and his rotten pride wouldn't be able to bear the weight of all that splendor. That afternoon, I met my best friend from college, Chloe, for coffee at a familiar cafe in Beverly Hills. Chloe, now a top lawyer for a major financial firm, was the only one who had witnessed my entire nightmarish marriage and had helped me expedite the divorce. The moment she sat down, she glanced at my pensive expression. "Okay, what's with the emergency summons? It has to be a disaster. Don't tell me it has something to do with Ryan all-flash no-cash Thompson." I laughed, pushing her orange juice towards her. "You're psychic. He's getting married. And the funniest part is, he booked my venue for the reception." Chloe nearly choked on her drink, her eyes wide. "What? Is he insane or just completely shameless? He hasn't even paid back his old debt, and now he's coming back for more? And you said yes?" "Of course I did," I replied calmly. "Why not? He's a paying customer. Are you crazy, Evelyn?" Chloe slammed her hand on the table. "He doesn't have any money. I know his type. He's going to pull the same stunt. Eat, wipe his mouth, and run." "Are you planning on being a charity for him again? Wasn't $50,000 painful enough?" I shook my head and pulled the old black ledger from my purse. I placed it on the table, open to the last page where the total of $50,000 was written. "I haven't forgotten, Chloe. I remember every single dollar. Look here. His nephew's first birthday party, $4,000. His mother's birthday, $2,500. His fake company's holiday party, $6,000. All of it was my blood, sweat, and tears." Chloe looked at the ledger and sighed. "So how are you going to get it back? You can't sue him. You foolishly didn't include the debt in the divorce settlement. There's no paper trail. What are you going to do? Collect on faith?" "I'm not trying to get the money back," I said, looking her straight in the eye, my gaze firm. "I know he doesn't have $50,000 to give me. This time, I'm collecting something else. I'm collecting his pride." Chloe stared at me for a long moment, then her eyes narrowed with curiosity. "What are you plotting? Spill." "I need your help with something. Can you check on Ryan's current financial situation? I know you have connections at the banks." Chloe nodded, pulled out her phone, and made a few calls. About 15 minutes later she returned, her expression a mix of seriousness and excitement. "Evelyn, you were right. Hot off the press, Ryan has a terrible credit score, flagged by all the bureaus. He's maxed out his personal loans with a bunch of predatory lenders. No reputable bank will touch him. And that real estate project he bragged about? He's just a low-level grunt running errands for a commission. The market's frozen, so he's completely broke." I nodded. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place. He really was desperate. He booked my venue because he thought I was a soft touch, that he could run up another tab. He planned to use the wedding gift money to pay off his old debts and cover the reception costs. "Exactly," Chloe snapped her fingers, "robbing Peter to pay Paul. But if you block his credit and demand immediate payment, he's screwed." "Precisely," I smiled. "I'm going to weave a beautiful net. I'll let him have his pride, let him borrow against his credibility, but at the last second, I'll pull the rug out from under him." I told Chloe my detailed plan, tightening the payment process, using his wealthy new wife and his own ego to back him into a corner. When I finished, Chloe applauded. "Brilliant, high-level stuff, my friend. That's the way to do it. He needs a lesson he'll never forget. Men like that, who live off women and are ungrateful to boot, deserve no mercy. Go for it. If you need any legal advice on the contract to trap him, I've got you covered." Holding the old ledger, I felt a sense of relief. It had been hidden in the dark for too long. Now, it would serve its final purpose not to reclaim money, but to reclaim justice. On Monday morning, I called an emergency meeting with the sales, event, and accounting departments. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone could sense my unusual seriousness. "Today, I want to announce a special procedure for the wedding on the 18th of next month for the client named Ryan Thompson," I began, my voice sharp. The room fell silent. A few of the older employees exchanged glances. They knew who Ryan was. "This is a VIP client, but he also presents a high payment risk," I said bluntly. "Therefore, I am issuing a new directive. The contract for this event must include a clause requiring 100% payment immediately upon conclusion of the party. I want to stress immediately before the client removes any property from the ballroom." The head of accounting raised her hand. "Ma'am, for large events, we usually allow clients to defer 10 to 20% for final settlement within 3 days. If we're this strict, will the client agree? With other clients, yes. With this client, no," I said firmly. "Absolutely no deferred payments, no verbal promises. Any additional charge incurred during the event, even for a single can of soda, must be signed for and paid on the spot. If the client fails to pay in full, our security team will not permit the gift money box to leave the premises." I scanned the room, my eyes landing on Kevin. "Kevin, you are responsible for drafting this contract addendum. Use bold, all caps for the payment clause. Explain it clearly to the client before he signs. I want to ensure he cannot later claim he didn't know or didn't read it carefully." "Yes, ma'am." "Understood," Kevin nodded decisively. "Furthermore," I continued, "regarding decorations and the menu, whatever the client requests, we provide. In fact, you should upsell them on our most premium packages. But the principle is, you get what you pay for. If they want fresh flowers imported from Ecuador, they must pay a 70% deposit on the floral package up front. If they want Alaskan king crab, they must pay for the ingredients in advance. We will not be fronting any capital for this event." The staff began to whisper among themselves. They had never seen me issue such strict and detailed directives. But they also understood this wasn't personal pettiness. It was a necessary precaution to protect the business from a tangible risk. "Evelyn, what if the client throws a tantrum and refuses to pay? Are we going to physically detain them? Wouldn't that be bad for our reputation?" a young salesperson asked nervously. I smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry. A man like Ryan values his image more than his life. He's marrying a wealthy woman in front of his family, her family, and his business associates. He would never dare make a scene and humiliate himself. We just need to be firm, polite, and operate within the law. This trap isn't to catch him, it's to make him tie himself to his own responsibility to pay." The meeting ended, and I felt a surge of energy. I was no longer a victim. I was in control of the game. The technical and legal fences were now in place, sturdy and sharp. All that was left was for the prey to walk in, full of his own arrogance and carelessness. I returned to my office and looked at my desk calendar. 1 month to go, 1 month to prepare for the final act, where all debts and grievances would be settled once and for all. 3 days later, at 9 a.m. sharp, Ryan appeared in the lobby of Elysian Events. He wasn't alone. Beside him was a young, stylishly dressed woman, a Chanel classic bag swinging from her arm with every haughty step. This was Tiffany, Ryan's fiancée. I watched them on my security monitor. Ryan, in a pinstripe suit with slicked back hair, looked almost timid next to her. He was constantly nodding and smiling, trying to please her. Kevin personally greeted them and took them on a tour of the grand ballroom on the 5th floor, our largest and most luxurious space. On the screen, I saw Tiffany scan the room with a critical eye. She stopped in the middle of the hall, squinted at the ceiling, and said something to Ryan. He immediately pulled out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat from his brow, looking flustered. I turned on the audio feed. "Look at this ceiling, Ryan," Tiffany's sharp voice rang out, full of disdain. "It's so low. How am I supposed to hang the Swarovski crystal chandelier I ordered from Italy? You told me this was the best venue in Beverly Hills, and this is it?" Ryan quickly tried to placate her. "Honey, this is the highest ceiling they have. It's 20 feet high. Your chandelier will fit perfectly. I told you, I had a friend save this best ballroom just for us." Tiffany pouted and pulled out her phone to make a video call. A few seconds later, the face of another young woman appeared, someone who looked to be in a high-end spa. "Hey, Brittany, look at this ballroom," Tiffany said, panning the camera around. "I'm checking out the venue. Supposed to be 5-star, but it looks so pathetic." The voice of the girl named Brittany came through the speaker, dripping with sarcasm. Oh my God, Tiffany, that ballroom is tiny, and the ceiling is so low, be careful the groom doesn't hit his head. Not that he's tall to begin with, but in there he'll look even shorter. My wedding was at the Park Hyatt. The ceiling was 30 feet high. You're a first-time bride marrying a tycoon, and you're doing it in this dump? You'll be the laughingstock of the family. Brittany's words were like gasoline on a fire. Tiffany's face flushed with anger. She hung up and turned her fury on Ryan. Did you hear that? Brittany is laughing at me. I don't care what you have to do. My wedding has to be the best. It has to crush hers. I want you to replace this tacky red carpet with imported navy blue velvet, and the floral arrangements must be 100% fresh flowers, none of this cheap silk crap. Ryan's face went pale. But, honey, all those changes? The cost? Cost what? Tiffany snapped. Are you being cheap with me? You told me you were a real estate mogul, that money was no object, and now you're worried about a few details? If you can't handle it, I'll just go tell my father to take care of it. But don't blame me if you lose face as a husband. It was a fatal blow. Ryan's greatest fear was being looked down upon by his in-laws. He immediately puffed out his chest. Nonsense! Who said I was being cheap? I was just worried you were getting stressed. Fine. Whatever you want, you get. He turned to Kevin, his voice dripping with false authority to impress his fiancée. Hey, manager, you heard my wife. Note down all her requests. Change the carpet, the lights, the flowers. Give me the best, most expensive options you have. Money is no object. Kevin stood there, a professional smile fixed on his face, but his eyes held a hint of pity for Ryan. Of course, sir. I've noted everything. We will prepare a detailed, revised quote and send it to you for approval this afternoon. I turned off the monitor and leaned back in my chair. The battle of egos had begun, and Ryan's dear fiancée was pushing him off the cliff faster than I ever could have imagined. That Brittany girl was my unwitting secret weapon. That afternoon, Kevin brought the revised quote to my office, a smirk on his face. Here you go. This number is sure to give Ryan a heart attack. I took the quote. Total estimated cost, $122,000. The 50-table reception itself was $50,000. The remaining $72,000 was purely for the extravagant decorations and upgrades Tiffany had demanded. Imported Belgian velvet carpet, $20,000. Ecuadorian roses, air-freighted same day, $30,000. Concert-grade sound and lighting system, $15,000. Menu upgrade to Alaskan king crab and A5 Wagyu, $7,000. I did exactly as you instructed, Kevin explained. I chose the most expensive and reputable suppliers. For the fresh flowers, our partner requires 100% prepayment before they'll even place the order. Excellent, I nodded, satisfied. Now, take this down to the happy couple, and watch his reaction closely. After Kevin left, I turned the camera back on in the VIP lounge. Ryan and Tiffany were waiting. When Kevin presented the new quote, I saw Ryan's hands tremble as he took the paper. His eyes widened at the total at the bottom. $122,000. The number was far beyond his current means, possibly more than his entire net worth, which was already in the negative. What is this? Ryan stammered, his voice cracking. How can it be so expensive? 50 tables for over $100,000? Did you make a mistake, or are you trying to rip me off? Tiffany snatched the quote from him, glanced at it, and nodded. Seems reasonable to me. Imported flowers are expensive. Alaskan king crab isn't cheap either. I don't see anything unreasonable here. What? Can't you afford it? Tiffany's question was a slap in the face. Ryan quickly waved his hands, forcing a laugh. Of course not. I have plenty of money. I was just surprised, with market fluctuations. It's fine. If you like it, we'll take it. He turned to Kevin, trying to look calm, but beads of sweat were forming on his forehead. Okay, we'll go with this plan. But, for Evelyn's sake, can you knock a little off the price? Or maybe be a little flexible with the payment schedule? Kevin shook his head gently, but firmly. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. Evelyn was very clear. Because these are imported items and premium ingredients that we have to source daily, we cannot offer any discounts. Furthermore, company policy for our Super VIP packages requires a 50% deposit upon signing the contract, with the remaining balance due in full immediately after the event. 50%? Ryan yelped. You mean $61,000 right now? Yes, sir, Kevin replied, sliding the credit card terminal forward. You can use your card or wire transfer, whichever you prefer. I saw Ryan swallow hard. He glanced at Tiffany, who was engrossed in her phone, oblivious to her fiancé's predicament. He knew he was in too deep to back out now. His male pride wouldn't let him. Ryan excused himself to take a phone call. I guessed he was trying to secure a high-interest loan from somewhere. He returned about 15 minutes later, looking slightly less stressed but still anxious. Hey, Kevin, Ryan whispered. To be honest, my cash is tied up in that land deal out in the desert. It hasn't cleared yet. Can I just put down a 30% deposit for now? Around $36,000? The rest I'll pay later. Evelyn and I go way back. I'm sure she won't make a fuss. Kevin glanced up at the security camera as if asking for my approval. I sent him a text message. Agree to 30%, but he must sign the addendum committing to 100% payment after the event. No exceptions. Kevin read the message and nodded. All right, sir. Out of respect for your history with my boss, I can make a one-time exception and accept a 30% deposit. However, I will need you to sign this commitment letter. It states clearly that the entire remaining balance, plus any additional charges, must be settled in full the moment the reception ends. Late payment will incur a 20% penalty fee on the total contract value. Hearing that his lower deposit was accepted, Ryan's eyes lit up. He thought Evelyn must still have a soft spot for him, or at least wouldn't dare to be too harsh. He grabbed the pen and signed the contract without bothering to read the penalty clause. His mind was already calculating. He'd sign now, and on the wedding day, he'd use the gift money to pay off as much as he could. If there was a shortfall, he'd just play the sympathy card. Who would dare demand payment from a groom on his wedding night? Done! Ryan breathed a sigh of relief and pulled out several credit cards. It took him 3 different cards to cover the $36,600 deposit. Watching the screen, I smirked. A tycoon who had to use maxed-out credit cards to pay for his own wedding deposit. Once the payment was complete, Tiffany stood up, smoothing her dress. All right, let's go. I have a spa appointment. Make sure they do a good job with that floral arch. They left, Ryan walking as if his legs were made of lead. The swagger he had when he arrived was gone, replaced by the heavy burden of a man drowning in debt. He had no idea that the signature he had just provided was the death warrant for the last shred of his dignity. I thought things would be quiet until the wedding day, but 3 days later, an uninvited guest appeared. It was Brenda, Ryan's mother, my former mother-in-law. Brenda showed up in her usual style, a flashy designer pantsuit, a gold chain around her neck as thick as a leash, and carrying a fruit basket that looked like it was bought in a hurry from a cheap market. She marched straight to the reception desk, her loud, southern accent echoing through the lobby. Where's Evelyn? Tell her I'm here. Her old mother-in-law has come to visit. The flustered receptionist called me. I sighed, knowing it was inevitable, and told her to send Brenda up. The moment she entered my office, Brenda plopped the fruit basket on my desk and rushed over to grab my hands, her face beaming as if the bitter divorce 3 years ago had never happened. Oh my goodness, Evelyn, look at you. You look so glamorous and beautiful. I almost didn't recognize you. I gently pulled my hands away and gestured for her to sit. Hello, Mrs. Thompson. It's nice to see you. Is there something I can help you with? Brenda's face fell slightly when I called her Mrs. Thompson, but she quickly recovered. Oh, don't be so formal. We were family once. I heard Ryan booked his wedding here, and I was so happy. Happy for your success, and happy that you two are still on good terms. I gave a faint smile and poured her a glass of water. Ryan is a client, and I am providing a service. It's just business. Brenda took a sip, her eyes darting around my office, appraising the furniture, before getting to the point. Well, that's what I told Ryan, that he should support you. Look, between us, I'll be honest, this wedding is costing him a lot. Could you see your way to giving him a little discount? Just a little something, as a wedding gift. Maybe 20% off, for old time's sake? For all the years we were mother and daughter. I looked at her, a wave of contempt washing over me. When I was her daughter-in-law, she never treated me like a daughter. She scrutinized every dollar I spent on groceries and constantly reminded me of my humble origins, saying I wasn't good enough for her son. Now that she saw I had money, she was laying on the mother-daughter act. "Mrs. Thompson, I would love to help, but company policy forbids it. The prices are fixed. If I give a discount, I have to cover the difference out of my own pocket for the shareholders. I hope you can understand." Hearing she couldn't get a discount, Brenda's face soured, but she hadn't given up. She pulled a stack of old, worn-out Tupperware containers from her oversized handbag and set them on my desk with a clatter. "Fine, fine. If you can't lower the price, then at least do this for me. On the wedding day, there will be so much good food on the tables. You know, things like the lobster and Wagyu beef. The guests won't finish it all. Can you tell your staff that when they see leftovers on a table, to pack them into these containers for me? I want to take them home for my nieces and nephews in the countryside. It would be a shame to let it go to waste." I stared in disbelief at the grimy plastic containers on my polished glass desk. Brenda's cheapness had truly reached a new level. She wanted to turn her son's luxurious wedding into a buffet for doggy bags? My patience had run out. I stood up, walked around my desk, and faced her directly. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry, but I have to be direct. This is a 5-star event venue, not a cafeteria. Our policy strictly prohibits guests from collecting leftovers in this manner. It's unhygienic and reflects poorly on our brand. Furthermore, your son is marrying a wealthy socialite. What do you think she would say if she saw this?" Brenda's face turned beet red. She shot up from her chair, pointing a finger at me. "Oh, I see how it is. Now that you're rich, you look down on us, don't you? You're just afraid I'll embarrass you. I'm the mother of the groom. I have rights. I'm paying for that food. Whether I take it home or throw it away is my business. Don't you dare lecture me." "You're mistaken," I replied calmly, my voice cold as ice. "Ryan is the one paying for the food, and he hasn't even paid in full yet. And this is my business establishment. I have the right to refuse any inappropriate requests. I have to report taxes and maintain my brand's integrity, not run a charity or clean up the mess from your family's ego." Brenda was speechless. She never expected the meek daughter-in-law of the past to talk back to her so sharply. She hastily shoved the containers back into her bag, muttering under her breath, "Ungrateful brat, biting the hand that fed you. I'll just wait and see how long your little empire lasts." She huffed, grabbed her untouched fruit basket, and stormed towards the door. Before leaving, she shot me one last hateful glare. "You just wait. On the wedding day, I'll tell all my relatives to eat every last bite. We won't leave a single scrap for you." The door slammed shut. I shook my head in disgust. Like mother, like son, that entire family lived on petty schemes and a fragile, glamorous facade. This encounter only strengthened my resolve to teach them a lesson they would never forget. I picked up the phone and called Kevin. "Kevin, please inform the security department to increase their presence in the ballroom on the 18th. Absolutely no plastic bags or containers for leftovers are to be allowed. If you see anyone attempting this, remind them politely but firmly. I will not have Elysian events looking like a chaotic flea market." "Understood, ma'am," Kevin's determined voice replied. I looked out the window as a downpour began. The rain would wash away the city's grime, but it seemed no storm could cleanse the stains on a person's character. Only the naked truth and a costly lesson could possibly bring them to their senses. And that lesson was coming very soon. To prepare for the final act, I couldn't allow for any mistakes, no matter how small. My painful marriage had taught me that with deceitful people like Ryan, spoken words are meaningless. Only black and white documentation holds any power. The next morning, I gathered the entire event team responsible for the wedding into the conference room. "Listen up," I said, tapping my pen on the table, my serious gaze sweeping across their faces. "From this moment until the wedding is over, every single request for a change, upgrade, or additional cost from the bride or groom must be confirmed in writing. A text message, an email, or even a handwritten note will suffice as long as we have their confirmation. Absolutely no verbal agreements." A junior staff member raised her hand. But Evelyn, Tiffany changes her mind constantly. Sometimes she'll text at midnight, demanding we change the wine, then in the morning, she'll cancel. If we keep asking for written confirmation, I'm afraid she'll get annoyed. She can be annoyed, I said firmly. Just politely explain that it's our accounting protocol to protect the client's interests and avoid any misunderstandings. Especially for large expenses, take a screenshot of her confirmation text, print it out, and add it to the file. When it's time to pay, if they deny it, we'll have the evidence. As I predicted, the closer it got to the wedding, the more outrageous Tiffany's demands became, likely driven by the pressure to outdo her cousin Brittany. 2 days later, Tiffany texted Kevin at 11 p.m., demanding to replace all the standard dessert chocolates with fresh, imported Belgian chocolates, each bearing the couple's initials in edible gold leaf. The additional cost was $2,000. Kevin immediately followed my instructions. He drafted a confirmation email detailing the cost and sent it to Tiffany, requesting her approval. Tiffany, accustomed to spending without looking at the price, replied with a simple, "Okay, approved." Every "okay, approved," and "do it from Tiffany" was printed out and compiled into a thick binder. This was our ironclad evidence, which Ryan would have no way of denying when faced with the final bill. I held the binder, feeling as though I were holding the verdict for my ex-husband's hollow pride. A week before the wedding, Ryan came to the venue to sign the final addendum, confirming all the additional items. He came alone this time, looking haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. The stress of scraping together money and placating his demanding fiancée had clearly taken its toll. Kevin presented the document. "Mr. Thompson, please review this. It's a summary of all the additional services, Mrs. Miller requested. The 7-tier champagne tower, the classical quartet for the guest arrival, the upgraded guest favors. The current total is $127,000. You've paid a deposit of $36,600. The remaining balance due after the event is $90,400. Ryan's hand trembled slightly as he held the pen, but he tried to act unfazed. He glanced at the numbers, his head surely spinning, but he still forced a confident tone. "All right, I've got it. Just make sure everything is perfect. I have the money ready, so don't you worry." Kevin pointed to the bolded text at the bottom of the page. "Please initial here, sir. This is the clause committing to payment in full immediately after the reception, before 10 p.m. on the same day. Failure to comply will result in late fees and other measures as per company policy." Ryan clicked his tongue, his annoyance showing. "Geez, you keep repeating that. I told you I'd handle it. We're practically family, and you're treating me like a stranger." Despite his words, he scribbled his initials, his signature rushed and messy, as if trying to escape the reality of it. Watching on camera, I saw the calculation in his eyes. He was thinking about the gift money box, 50 tables, 500 guests. He was probably estimating that if each guest gave $100, he'd have $50,000. Plus gifts from relatives, he likely thought he'd have enough to cover most of the bill, and he could ask to pay the rest later. Who would be so heartless as to harass a groom on his wedding night? But Ryan was mistaken. He forgot that most of his guests were just fair-weather drinking buddies and other posers like himself. As for the bride's guests, her parents would be collecting that gift money. He wouldn't see a dime of it. He was counting his chickens before they hatched, and the coop was empty. The night before the wedding, the grand ballroom was aglow with lights. The Elysian events team was bustling about, setting up the stage, arranging flowers, and laying down the carpet. I personally inspected every detail. Everything had to be perfect, not to please Ryan, but so that no one could find fault with my services. Around 9 p.m., Tiffany showed up unexpectedly with another woman. I recognized her immediately, Brittany, the rival cousin. Dressed to the nines, Brittany's sharp eyes scanned the ballroom like a fault-finding radar. "Tiffany, darling." Brittany's high-pitched voice echoed in the empty hall. "These red roses are a bit dark, don't you think? They look kind of old." For my wedding, I used all imported pastel flowers. It looked so much more elegant. "This red, it's a bit tacky, isn't it?" Tiffany, who had been admiring the stage, saw her expression change instantly. She looked at the vibrant red roses, the very ones she had chosen a week ago, and suddenly found them repulsive. Blinded by jealousy, she turned and yelled for Kevin. "Manager, get over here." Kevin, who was directing the sound crew, hurried over. "Yes, Miss Miller, how can I help you?" "Change it," Tiffany ordered, pointing at the floral arch. "Change all of these red roses. I want white tulips and phalaenopsis orchids. I don't want to see this tacky red color anymore." Kevin was stunned. "But ma'am, it's 9 p.m. The arrangements are already complete, just as you approved in the contract. To change everything now. We won't have time to source new flowers, and the cost will be extremely high." "I don't care," Tiffany shrieked, glancing at Brittany, who was smirking. "I'm paying you, so you figure it out. If I come here tomorrow and see a single one of these red flowers, you'll regret it." Brittany added fuel to the fire. "She's right, Tiff. You only get married once. Don't sweat the small stuff. Your husband is a tycoon. What's a little extra cash?" Emboldened, Tiffany pulled out her phone and called Ryan. I couldn't hear his side of the conversation, but I heard her yelling, "I don't care what you have to do. Either you agree to pay for it, or we can just cancel the wedding." 15 minutes later, a frantic, sweating Ryan rushed in. Seeing Brittany, he understood the situation immediately. He pulled Tiffany aside and whispered frantically, but in the end, faced with his fiancée's glare and her cousin's smirk, he capitulated once again. He approached Kevin, his voice dejected. Just change it for her. Add the cost to the final bill." Kevin looked up at me. I was observing from the mezzanine. I gave a slight nod. He turned back to Ryan. "Very well, sir. Because this is a last-minute emergency, we'll have to call in our team for overtime and purchase flowers at a premium rate. The additional cost for this change will be $5,000. Please sign this confirmation form." Ryan closed his eyes and signed without looking. Another $5,000 added to the mountain of debt. I watched the scene unfold and couldn't help but shake my head. Pride truly is a double-edged sword, and it was slicing away at Ryan's empty pockets. The fateful day finally arrived. I was at the venue early, dressed in a powerful black pantsuit. Today, I was not just the owner. I was the director of this final act. I gathered all the reception and security staff for one last briefing. "Today is an important day," I said clearly. "We will have a large crowd, so security must be tight. I want to make it absolutely clear to the front desk staff. You are not to accept any tips or bribes from guests to bypass our security protocols. If I find anyone taking money to sneak items out or to allow a client to defer payment, they will be fired on the spot." The staff responded in unison. "Understood." They knew I meant what I said. Around 10 a.m., Chloe arrived. My best friend was stunning in a vibrant red dress, her makeup flawless, as if she were attending the Oscars. "Ready for the show, boss?" She winked, holding a bag of popcorn. "I came early to get a good seat." "Don't get ahead of yourself," I laughed. "The main event is at the end. Come up to my office for some tea first." We went to the control room, where the monitors displayed every corner of the venue. The ballroom was breathtaking, adorned with pristine white tulips and elegant orchids. It was exactly what the bride wanted, but behind that beauty lay a mountain of debt waiting to crash down on the groom. At 11 a.m., the guests began to arrive. The groom's family came first. Brenda was wearing a velvet red dress, a golden headpiece, and was laden with so much gold jewelry she looked like a walking pawn shop. She paced back and forth in the lobby, greeting everyone with a booming voice. "Oh, hello. What do you think of this place? Magnificent, isn't it? My Ryan is very close with the owner." She pulled out all the stops for him. "Look at that floral arch. All imported from Europe. Very expensive." Her relatives from out of town stared in awe, showering her with praise. "You're so lucky, Brenda. Your son is so successful. This is the biggest wedding our town has ever seen. You must be so proud." Ryan stood next to his mother, his chest puffed out, his chin held high. He looked dapper in a white tuxedo, if you ignored the nervous darting of his eyes towards the payment counter. He was savoring these fleeting moments of glory, the empty praise from his relatives helping him forget, for a moment, his grim reality. Suddenly, a sleek Maybach pulled up to the entrance. Tiffany's parents emerged. They were clearly successful business people, their quiet confidence a stark contrast to the loud, trying too hard demeanor of Ryan's family. Ryan rushed to open the car door, bowing low. "Welcome, Dad. Mom, I hope the drive was okay." The father-in-law merely nodded, his eyes sweeping over Ryan with a cold, appraising look before walking inside. He clearly wasn't impressed with his new son-in-law. He was just indulging his spoiled daughter. Tiffany stepped out of the car, resplendent in a custom-designed wedding gown worth a small fortune. She didn't even glance at Ryan, walking straight to her group of friends, which included Brittany. "You look beautiful, Tiff," Brittany said perfunctorily, then glanced at the floral arch. "Oh, you changed the flowers." "Much better. Must have cost a fortune." "It's a small matter," Tiffany sniffed. "Ryan spoils me rotten. Whatever I want, I get." On the monitor, I saw Ryan standing alone between the two families, one of country folk heaping false praise on him, the other of wealthy elites looking down on him. He was a puppet trying to perform his role on a stage that was about to collapse. And I, the puppeteer, was about to pull the final string. The reception proceeded with a lively buzz of music and clinking glasses. Chloe and I watched from the control room, eating lunch and observing the drama unfold on the large screens. The exquisite dishes were served one by one: abalone soup, Alaskan king crab with cheese sauce, a 5 Wagyu steak. Each course was a testament to luxury and expense, drawing gasps of admiration from the guests. On stage, Ryan was giving a speech. He talked about destined love and gratitude to their parents, but mostly he bragged about his success. "Thank you all for celebrating with us today. Please, enjoy the finest food, the rarest wines. To me, your satisfaction is the greatest success. Let's raise a glass." He spoke fluently, as if from a script, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety every time he glanced towards the exit, where my security team stood guard. Below, Brenda table-hopped, her voice booming as she boasted, "Help yourselves, everyone. My Ryan had this lobster flown in from Maine. Very expensive, hundreds of dollars apiece. When you're successful like us, you don't spare any expense for your children." Meanwhile, at a table near the stage, Tiffany's mother was frowning. She summoned a waiter. "Excuse me, why is this napkin folded so sloppily? It's unappetizing. And you're barely pouring any wine. Fill the glass." "Are you afraid we'll drink too much?" she chided. The waiter apologized and complied. She then turned to her friends. "Honestly, this place calls itself 5-star, but the service is so-so. If Tiffany hadn't insisted, I would have booked a 6-star hotel. The groom's family is so provincial, they wouldn't know quality if it hit them." Unbeknownst to them, the real drama was unfolding at table 18, where Ryan's old friends were gathered. One of them, a man Ryan had once swindled in a fake investment, was holding his wine glass, speaking just loud enough for the table to hear. "You guys really believe Ryan is rich?" "Rich my ass. I know him. All those projects he brags about are pure fantasy. Last month he tried to borrow $50 from me to pay his electric bill. I said no." "Seriously?" another friend asked, shocked. "Then how is he throwing a wedding this extravagant?" "It's all for show," the man scoffed. "He's marrying this rich girl to dig for gold. I heard he's drowning in debt, hiding from creditors. That watch he's wearing, I bet it's a high-end fake from downtown." Whispers began to spread from table 18. Doubtful glances were cast towards the groom on stage. Ryan seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere. His smile became strained. He quickly downed his glass of wine, but the alcohol only amplified his fear. Chloe nudged me. "Hey, the plot is thickening. That guy is a truth-teller." I smiled and sipped my tea. "Not yet. This is just the opening act. The best part is yet to come." The clock struck 2:30 p.m., and the party began to wind down. Guests started to leave in a flurry of handshakes and goodbyes. Ryan stood at the door, his face flushed from alcohol and stress, his eyes constantly darting to the gift box on the reception table, guarded by his 2 cousins. The moment the last guest left, Ryan signaled to his relatives, "Get the box to the car. Now!" The 2 young men lifted the heavy box and headed for the main entrance. Just then, Kevin and 3 large security guards stepped in their path. "Excuse me, Mr. Thompson," Kevin said, his voice polite but firm. As per the contract you signed, you are required to settle the full balance of the event before removing any property from the premises. Ryan froze, his face draining of color. He tried to compose himself and yelled, "What are you talking about? Get out of my way!" "I'll take the money home, count it, and then I'll pay you." "We're friends. What kind of stunt are you pulling?" "I'm sorry, sir, but rules are rules." Kevin remained calm, holding out a long invoice. "The remaining balance is $90,400 plus $5,000 for the last-minute flower change. The total due is $95,400. Please proceed to the counter to make your payment." "I told you I'd pay later," Ryan roared, trying to push past Kevin. "Do you want me to call Evelyn and have you fired?" Brenda, seeing her son being blocked, rushed over, shrieking, "What is this? Are you trying to rob your own guests? That's my son's gift money. Get out of the way before I start screaming." Instantly, the security guards formed a solid line, blocking the exit. The tension was palpable. Tiffany and her parents, who were waiting for their car, heard the commotion and turned back. "What is all this noise?" Tiffany's father asked, his voice stern. Seeing his father-in-law, Ryan panicked. "It's nothing, Dad. Just a little misunderstanding with the staff. You and Mom go on ahead to the car. I'll sort this out in a minute." But Kevin gave him no chance to lie. He stepped forward, speaking loudly and clearly for everyone to hear. "Sir, ma'am, we are not causing any trouble. Mr. Thompson signed a legally binding agreement to pay his bill in full immediately after the reception. We are simply enforcing the contract. Mr. Thompson, please come to the counter so we can complete the transaction and you can be on your way." The father-in-law's eyebrows furrowed. He turned to Ryan with suspicion. "What is this? You haven't paid for the wedding?" Ryan stammered, sweat pouring down his face. I was planning to wire the money from home. It's more convenient. I forgot my wallet today." "You forgot your wallet?" His father-in-law's voice was dangerously low. "You're hosting a $100,000 wedding, and you forgot your wallet? Are you trying to make a fool of this family?" Backed into a corner, Ryan resorted to blustering. He pulled out his phone and dialed my number. The phone rang in my office. I smiled at Chloe, answered, put it on speaker, and patched the call through the PA system in the lobby. "Evelyn!" Ryan yelled into the phone. "What kind of staff do you have? They're blocking the exit. Do you want me to make a scene?" My calm, clear voice filled the lobby. "Ryan, my staff is doing their job. You signed the contract. It's all there in black and white. Pay the $95,400 and you're free to go." Elysian Events is a reputable business, not a flea market where you can run up a tab whenever you please. How dare you?" Ryan was choking with rage. "You never even collected the $50,000 I owed you from before, and now you're making a fuss over this?" The entire lobby fell silent. All eyes were on Ryan. His new wife and in-laws stared, stunned. $50,000 in old debt? The secret Ryan had guarded so carefully was now exposed. I continued, my voice now like steel. "Since you brought it up, Ryan, let's be clear. I wrote off that $50,000 as a donation to my past mistake of marrying a man like you. But this new debt is the livelihood of my employees and my shareholders. You will not cheat them out of a single cent. Don't let your new family be ashamed of having such a poser for a son-in-law." A dial tone echoed through the lobby. I had hung up. Ryan stood frozen, his phone slipping from his hand. He turned to his in-laws and saw their looks of utter contempt. He wished the ground would swallow him whole. Tiffany lunged at him, grabbing his collar. "You lied to me. You said you were a tycoon, that you would take care of everything. You're nothing but a deadbeat. What is this about $50,000 you owed your ex-wife? Tell me." "Honey, please, calm down. Let me explain," Ryan begged. "It's a misunderstanding. Trust me, I have the money." He turned to the counter, his eyes fixed desperately on the gift box. He knew his wallet contained nothing but maxed-out credit cards. The cash in that box was his only hope. "The money's here!" Ryan pointed at the box, his voice frantic. "Open it! I'll use the cash in here to pay." He lunged for the box, but Kevin and the security team blocked him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson," Kevin said firmly. "Our policy is that cash gifts cannot be used for payment until they have been properly accounted for off-site to prevent discrepancies." Please use a credit card or a bank transfer." "I don't have a card. I want to use the cash," Ryan screamed, struggling like a cornered animal. Tiffany, watching her new husband's pathetic display, was overcome with humiliation. "Stop it!" she yelled. "Stop making a fool of yourself in front of everyone. Just use a damn card and get it over with." "What? Are you cheap?" Ryan froze. He looked at Tiffany, then at his father-in-law, whose face was a thundercloud. He knew he couldn't get the money from the box. Defeated, he shakily pulled out his wallet and fumbled for the few credit cards he knew were useless. Try this one," he whispered. All his bravado gone, he handed a card to the cashier with a sliver of hope that a miracle might happen. Kevin swiped the card. Beep. Transaction declined. Insufficient funds. Kevin looked at Ryan with pity. "This card doesn't have a sufficient limit, sir." Ryan swallowed and handed over another. "Try this one." Beep. Transaction declined. One by one, all 4 of his cards were declined. A cold sweat drenched Ryan's body. His legs felt like jelly. He stood there, exposed and pathetic, under the scrutiny of dozens of eyes. Just as Ryan was sinking into despair, Brittany, Tiffany's cousin, stepped forward. She had been live-streaming the entire event, a triumphant smirk on her face. She peered at the credit card terminal, then looked at Ryan with mock sympathy. "Oh my God, tycoon brother-in-law. If I remember correctly, didn't you max out all those cards just to pay the deposit? So you scraped the bottom of the barrel for the down payment, and now you're trying to charge another 95 grand on them? That's hilarious." Brittany's words were the final, crushing blow, exposing the ugly truth Ryan had tried so hard to hide. The crowd erupted in laughter and jeers. So he maxed out his cards for the deposit? He showed up to his wedding completely broke. How humiliating. He knew the cards were empty and still tried to put on a show. Poor Tiffany, marrying a professional con artist. Brenda tried to defend her son. "You're all lying. My son just forgot to transfer money to his card. Give me the gift box. I'll pay in cash." She lunged for the box, but Tiffany's father bellowed, "Stop!" He strode forward, his face red with rage. "That gift money is from my guests, my business partners, for my daughter. You have no right to touch it. Your son promised to pay for this wedding. Now that he can't, it's his problem. My family will not be associated with a fraud." Tiffany stood there, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. She looked at Ryan with pure hatred. "Isn't this humiliating enough for you? Get out of my sight. I never want to see you again." Ryan fell to his knees, clutching her dress. "Tiffany, please, help me. Just pay for it this one time. I'll sell my land and pay you back double. Please, don't leave me here." "What land?" Tiffany kicked his hand away, sending him sprawling. "You're a liar. Brittany already checked. You don't own any land. You're just a small-time errand boy." "You scammed me!" The chaotic, tragic scene played out in the luxurious lobby of Elysian Events. Watching on the monitor, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sense of pity. The price of a fake ego is far more expensive than any lavish party. Finally, unwilling to prolong her family's public humiliation, Tiffany grit her teeth and turned to her father. "Dad, let me borrow your card. I just want to pay this debt and get out of here. I can't stand this place another second." Her father grimly pulled out a black American Express Centurion card and handed it to her. Tiffany snatched it and threw it on the counter. "Pay it. Now." Kevin swiped the card. The receipt printer whirred to life. "Transaction approved. Please sign here, ma'am." Tiffany signed the slip, then crumpled the thick stack of receipts into a ball and threw it at Ryan, who was still sitting on the floor. "Here, take this and hang it on your wall. From now on, we go our separate ways. Don't you ever show your face at my house again. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce." With that, she turned and stormed out, her family following her. Brittany, the last to leave, gave one final smirk and a wave to her live-stream audience of thousands. Only Ryan and Brenda were left in the lobby, along with the gift box containing a few meager envelopes from their side of the family. Brenda collapsed onto the floor, wailing, while Ryan sat there, catatonic, like a man who had lost his soul. In my office, I saw the notification on my phone. A deposit of $95,400 had been made to the company account. I opened my desk drawer and took out the old black ledger. I turned to the last page and, in neat, steady handwriting, wrote, "Date. Today. Old debt of $50,000 paid in full with honor and pride. Account settled." I tore out the page, along with the rest of the book, and fed it into the paper shredder. The machine whirred, grinding the painful memories, the schemes, and the bitterness of the past 3 years into meaningless confetti. "It's done," I said softly, turning to Chloe. She patted my shoulder. "Congratulations. Here's to freedom. Let's go celebrate tonight. But not here. Let's hit up a taco truck and grab some beers. You've earned it." I smiled, turned off the monitors, and switched off the lights in my office. We walked out, leaving behind the glittering lights of Elysian events and the wreckage of my ex-husband's life. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and cool. I took a deep breath, savoring the sweet taste of freedom and peace. My life, my real life, was just beginning. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our story for tonight. It is not just a tale of a dramatic marriage and its fallout, but a cautionary lesson about true worth in an age where appearances are everything. The character of Ryan represents a lifestyle built on a flashy, borrowed facade to hide an empty core. He thought he could mortgage his integrity for his ego, but he forgot a fundamental rule of life. Anything that can be bought with money is cheap, but honor, once sold, can never be repurchased. Only sincerity and genuine effort can create lasting value. All the glittering fake exteriors will, sooner or later, be stripped away by the harsh light of truth. Thank you for tuning in. Good night, and we'll see you next time.